Hey everybody, John Mark here. Welcome to Mark My Words. Today I'm going to talk to you about the number one law of political power. Before I get into it, I have to say a huge thank you and a huge welcome to all my new subscribers. As most of you know, this is a very new channel. A little over a week ago, I only had a few hundred subscribers. Now I have 17,000. So the channel has grown much faster than I expected. So a huge hug and a huge welcome to all my new subscribers and the first subscribers as well, because you guys were the first ones on board. And I want to tell you all this. You are not going to want to miss a single video that I put out, especially these next several videos that I'm coming out with. After this video, I'm going to start explaining propertarianism. I may have one other video that I throw in before I do that. Propertarianism is, as I put it, parasite-proof government. You are not going to want to miss this. Everyone on the right wing needs to understand this. I call it the iPhone of right-wing thinking because it builds on what we had before, and it contains some innovations in rule of law that enable us to keep out the parasitism from the elites and from the left. And so it is something everyone on the right wing needs to understand. You are not going to want to miss this because this is the answer that the right has needed. The right wing has been reeling in the 20th century and the first part of the 21st century because we've had failed strategies. We need to abandon those, and then when we abandon those, when we have a chance to implement something better, which we will, we are going to be ready. And this is what we're going to be ready with. So I encourage you to subscribe, spread this around, not because of me, but because this is something that's way bigger than any of us. So I won't say any more about that right now, but all of these videos that I've been doing are preparing you to learn about propertarianism. One more thing before we get into the content of the video, I do have a Patreon up now, and I also have an email list on my website. I would encourage you to be in contact with me on every platform that you can. We're building something that is going to make a very big difference. And I personally believe it will make all the difference, building on all of the great things that so many great right-wingers have been doing. All right, let's get into the main content of the video. Here we go. Today we are going to talk about the number one law of political power. If you are a group that wants more political power, you must utilize this law to your advantage. If you don't, you will lose political power. If you do, you will gain increased political power. In the United States of America, the right wing for many decades has been attempting a strategy that is the opposite of this law of political power. We've been on the wrong side of this law. The left, on the other hand, has been using this law of political power to their advantage. And it's not so much that the right is dumb and the left is smart, and that's why they've done this. It's because, as I'll explain, the right wing does not instinctively gravitate towards using this law. And I'll explain why that is. On the other hand, the left wing does instinctively gravitate towards using this law because they don't have much other choice. So I'll explain that to you. All right, what is the number one law of political power? The number one law of political power is intolerance. Be intolerant. Let me get a little more specific. Be intolerant of everything that you do not want. Let me say it a slightly different way. Punish everything that you do not want immediately and harshly. Nassim Taleb is the person who brought this law of political power to my attention. He said, in any society, the most intolerant group wins. Even a small group can force their will upon the rest of the population if that small group is intolerant and the rest of the population is tolerant. And the simple reason for this is that an intolerant group doesn't take no for an answer, they don't give in, and the tolerant group does give in. So if your group wants political power, it must punish everything it doesn't want. If your group does not do that, you are going to lose political power to other groups that do punish everything that they don't want. If what they want is different than what you want, and they punish people for violating what they want, and you don't punish people for violating what you want, they're going to win. So the number one law of political power is Be intolerant. You could even just use the simple word punish. You must punish everything you don't want. In politics, tolerance is weakness. Many right-wingers are looking around the United States of America and Western Europe, saying to themselves, how did this happen? How did we go from relative normalcy to clown world in like 5 seconds flat in the span of just a few years of time? How did this happen? Let me tell you how it happened. Tolerance. The people who are imposing clown world are intolerant, and almost nobody will say no to them. Precisely because they're intolerant, and precisely because they punish you if you try to say no to them. Social justice warriors are absolutely intolerant. If you say anything that they don't like, they immediately punish you for it, to the greatest extent that they can. At the very least, they call you a racist Nazi. At the very least, they make you defend yourself against that accusation. They immediately put you on the back foot. See, this is one big mistake that libertarianism and classical liberalism made. This is why, even though they have very good elements, they are incomplete and ultimately failed strategies, because they're too tolerant. What classical liberalism and libertarianism said, and by the way, my goal is not to slam libertarians, slam classical liberals. We all know that there are nuggets of gold in there. Libertarians are basically just saying, don't steal from me. Leave me alone to produce. Classical liberals are trying to focus on the rights of the individual. We understand what these things are. I'm not trying to get into a big argument. I'm trying to laser focus on what works and what doesn't work. And what I'm explaining to you today is a fatal flaw in both classical liberalism and libertarianism, which is they've tried to maximize the number of people participating in the economy by being tolerant of anything that doesn't directly have to do with economic activity. You want to be gay? I don't care. You want to be a different skin color? I don't care. You want to do this? I don't care. As long as you're participating in the economy, we're happy. That was a fatal mistake. The reason it's a fatal mistake is that many, many people on this planet do not just want to participate in an economy based on their own merits as an individual. That is not the optimum strategy for millions of people on this planet, because millions of people on this planet, billions actually, are not that capable. The average IQ of the human beings on this planet is 90. That is not a high average IQ. So the optimum strategy for many of these people is not to compete on their own merits as an individual. The optimum strategy for them is to form a team with other people who get ahead by hook or by crook. And they don't care about your preaching about classical liberalism. They don't care about your preaching about libertarianism. They don't care about that because that's not the optimum strategy for them. That's not the best way for them to get ahead. The best way for them to get ahead is to form a team and try to get political power. So let me give you an example. The LGBT crowd is a perfect example of this. The libertarians might say, I don't care if you're gay, as long as you participate in the economy. A classical liberal might say the same thing. The problem is, gays feel low status because they've felt low status throughout Western history, and they've been low status for a very good reason, which is they impose a cost on the majority of people who are heterosexual couples with children. I'm not going to explain all that, but the point is, gay people don't just want to participate in the economy. They want status. They want not to be looked down upon. And so what happens is they form a team, and they go out there and they fight for political power, and they say, we've been discriminated against. You all know the drill. And next thing you know, if you're a straight white man, you are behind gay people in line for jobs and spots in universities. And the classical liberals and the libertarians are looking around going, wait a minute, this isn't what we meant. This isn't what we wanted. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It isn't what you wanted because you were tolerant. Therefore, you got what you didn't want. Being tolerant is a mistake. Let me just say something about Jordan Peterson. I had a revelation about Jordan Peterson today. I give Jordan Peterson a very hard time because he is on the losing right. Jordan Peterson cannot lead us to victory because he is not realistic enough. He's going around preaching Classical liberalism is if that's going to win somehow. It's not going to win because most people don't care about that, especially most non-white people. So going around and saying, let's not play identity politics when it's obvious that everyone but white people plays identity politics unapologetically, and they're obviously not going to listen to Jordan Peterson. But the revelation I had about Jordan Peterson was, if every moderate centrist or classical liberal was like Jordan Peterson, we wouldn't be having the problems that we're having. The problems we're having in America are due to the fact that no one will say no to these social justice warrior freaks except for the hard right, that I call the winning right. But Jordan Peterson, to his credit, he does demonstrate extreme intolerance of the far left crazies. If every classical liberal, if every libertarian, if every moderate centrist, if every moderate leftist showed that kind of intolerance to the far left crazies, we wouldn't be having the problems that we're having. So to his credit, he shows intolerance to them. The problem is he's only one man. And we can't just go around preaching to people, hoping that enough people will listen. We have to have it in our rule of law that this is not acceptable. You're not going to go around and form a team of people based on lies that you've been discriminated against. You haven't been discriminated against. You have been kept in check because you impose a cost on normal people. There's a very good reason we don't allow you to impose that cost. Or in the past we didn't, at least. Then we got tolerant and you started running the show. Well, I can tell you one thing for sure, that's not going to last. So I hope you're getting the point here. Tolerance is weakness in politics. The reason right-wingers look around and it seems like clown world to us is because we were tolerant. We were trying to get people to participate in an economy on their own merits, and we ignored all the other aspects of human nature. We ignored that many people don't want to do that because that's not the optimum strategy for them, and therefore we started losing to intolerant groups. Even a small group like the LGBT crowd can dominate a much larger group just by being intolerant. If you go apply for a job in the United States of America today, or a spot in a university, and you're a straight white man who's been preaching about libertarianism and preaching about classical liberalism, the cold hard reality is you are last in line for jobs and for spots in universities. Why? Because you've been preaching instead of punishing. It's time to punish. Let me give you a couple of specific examples of punishing on both sides. Well, I already gave you an example on the left. The LGBT crowd is a classic example of that. They punish the corporations if the corporations try to cross them. They sue at the drop of a hat. Anybody who's slightly uncomfortable with it gets immediately punished. They can lose their job because these people are intolerant and they punish. So on the right wing, there's a couple examples we could use as well. The NRA is a great example. Years ago, the NRA figured out that the left works incrementally. They'll say, well, we don't want to ban all guns, we just want to ban this particular thing that seems reasonable to ban. The NRA figured out that game a long time ago, so the NRA figured out we need to be 100% intolerant. We just say no to everything. Anything the left wants to do, we just say no, period. We don't even have the discussion. No. That's intolerance. Another example is on the right wing when these companies like Target wanted to have tranny people going in the women's bathrooms and all this. Right-wing people started boycotting Target, making them feel financial pain. So that has worked somewhat, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really work because these big corporations know that the left will punish them more than the right will. They know that if they start giving in to the right wing in their official corporate policies, that the left wing will swiftly and immediately and harshly punish them with lawsuit after lawsuit. And this brings me to a very important point. Why is the left so good at this and the right wing so bad? Why is the left wing so much better at this than the right wing? Let me explain it to you. The right wing's instinct is to produce based on their own merits. The grassroots right, that's our instinct. We're not interested in punishing people who are not like us, really. All we want to do is just compete on our own merits. And that's why we've gone around preaching about libertarianism and small government, because that's our wheelhouse. That's our instinct. And we just think if we can get everybody else to operate according to this instinct, everything will be fine. The problem is there are way too many people who don't want to live that way and who don't have that instinct. So we're not going to win by preaching to them. We have to win by being completely intolerant of their parasitism and their theft, as in punishing them for it. There are way more people on this planet that do not want to live in a right-wing way than want to live in a right-wing way. Right-wing thinking, right-wing living is a minority instinct on this planet. Most people on this planet do not think that way. The right-wing instinct is an instinct to value opportunity more than security. Most people on this planet value security more than opportunity. So we've been going around with our libertarianism and our classical liberalism and preaching to people, trying to make them like us, and they are not like us. That's why the solution is separate from them forever, and we can live out our instincts and go to the stars and do whatever we want to do without them. We don't need them. We don't want them. And we carry out our strategy apart from them without their dead weight hanging off our backs. So the right wing is not naturally good at punishing because our instincts are to produce according to merit. So we spend our energies naturally doing that, and we're pretty good at it. And then we think, well, this is so natural to us. If we just explain it logically to everybody else, they'll get it. False. Our instinct and our strength, this intuition that we should just produce by merit, and if everybody does that, everything will be fantastic and we'll have a lot of wealth, which is absolutely true. We try to lead with our strength. The problem is it falls on deaf ears. And then we're so busy doing that we haven't concentrated on gaining institutional and political power to punish people who don't want to be like us, so that they can't impose costs on us or steal from us or be parasites on us. So we're just acting out our instinct. Now let's contrast this with the left wing's instinct. Grassroots left-wingers do not want to compete on their own merits. They want to believe that people who are more successful than they are cheating because that makes them feel better about themselves, and they value security more than opportunity. So they are not interested in classical liberalism, they are not interested in libertarianism, they are not interested in right-wing thinking. That is why they fight us tooth and nail. What does their instinct lead them to do? Their instinct leads them to get political power as teams and as a coalition of teams. So that's what they do. Notice, the left-wingers are not out there saying, you know what, we're going to add so much value to the economy that everybody's going to want us around. They're not saying that. They're saying you successful people are cheating and you owe us this and you owe us that, therefore use the government to steal money from somebody else and give it to us. Steal opportunity from somebody else and give it to us. Steal university spots from somebody else and give it to us. Steal jobs from somebody else and give it to us. That's the entire line of reasoning behind affirmative action. You owe us, white man. You owe us. Because you're more successful, you must be cheating, because it can't possibly be that you're better at something than us. You must be cheating, therefore you owe us. And if you try to disagree with that, we will punish you. We will call you Nazi. We will call you racist. We will make you lose your job. We will fill the HR departments with people that think like us. We will fill the government agencies with people that think like us. We will get political power. They go straight to political power because they don't have the other option. These are people who are not interested in competing on merit and in many cases cannot compete on merit, so they don't even try. They just go straight for the jugular, straight for political power. They go straight to intolerance. And you notice that in conversations with them. If you try to have a logical discussion with a leftist, it usually doesn't take very long until they just start calling you a Nazi, a bigot. They start calling you names, as if that's their trump card, as if that means anything to us. It doesn't mean anything to us, but to them it means everything, because that's their whole strategy, punishing people. If you don't give us what we want, we will punish you. And we on the right wing are sitting over here, that's not fair. Yes, it is. They're using a winning strategy. We've been using a losing strategy. Let's stop losing. Let's start punishing. And it works. It works like a charm. Think about Islam. Islam is an extremely intolerant religion. If you send a bunch of Christians into an Islamic country, or a bunch of scientists who don't believe in God, and you try to get them to get off of the Quran or whatever it is that they believe and embrace something else, what are the chances you're going to make it out of that country alive? There's a significant chance you will die in that country because they are completely intolerant. That's a lesson to us. Be intolerant. And I'll close with this. This is a word for people who are maybe in the middle, they're moderates, they just wish everybody could just be friends. Everybody in America cannot be friends. This divide is not going to be healed. It's going to explode into a war. Why? Because the most intolerant group always wins. And on the left, the most intolerant group by far is the far left crazies. No one on the left can say no to them because they get shouted down. And so the far left crazies have already come to dominate the Democrat Party, and they will dominate it more and more because they're the most intolerant group. On the right side of the political spectrum, everybody is shifting over towards the hard right because the hard right is the only group intolerant enough of the hard left and actually doesn't agree with their false underlying assumption that all groups are equal. So the reason the middle is getting hollowed out is because the middle is tolerant. The middle's trying to be tolerant, and that is a losing strategy. That's why you have classical liberals coming out and saying classical liberalism has no power anymore. Correct, because they try to be tolerant. So you people in the middle, you're going to be caught in the middle of a war because you didn't want to be intolerant of intolerant people. It's the exact same thing as letting Islam into your nation, thinking that somehow everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. This thing that happens in Western Europe is completely predictable, where they end up with these neighborhoods that they completely take over. The cops won't even go in there. Why? Because they're totally intolerant. And the cops are trying to be tolerant, and the politicians are trying to be tolerant, and everybody's on this stupidity of tolerance kick. So of course the most intolerant group gets what they want. And nobody will say no to them because the West, for way too long, bought a lie. The lie is that tolerance pays off. It doesn't. The only thing it pays off in is losing. Losing everything you value to intolerant people who don't give a rat's ass about you or what you value or what you care about. Be intolerant. All right, so that's my lesson on intolerance. There's probably a lot more that could be said about that, but I think that's a good enough introduction. The main point you need to come away with is that a strategy of tolerance is a failed strategy. And because classical liberalism and libertarianism have elements of tolerance built into them that are unwise elements, they are incomplete strategies, and so we need to move past those as well and keep, as I said, the gold nuggets that are good from them. The evolution of all this leads to propertarianism or parasite-proof government, which I will be explaining in either my next video or the video after that, so make sure you are subscribed, and I look forward to interacting with you all. Till next time. How much longer do we want to play trench warfare with the left? How many more times are we going to have to fight this battle? You know what my answer is? 0. 0 more times. This is going to be the last time. And if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will.